What do you do in a situation where someone asks you something and it really hits this nerve? You weren't expecting it, your heart starts pumping, your mind goes blank. And in that split second, you either can lose the room, lose control, or you own it. In this video, you're going to learn how to do these three things. The first one is calm your nerves and take control of any tough moment, even before you say a word. Second, how do you pivot to flip a negative question into a positive, confident response every single time? And third, how to handle pushback gracefully so that when someone keeps pressuring you, you never lose your footing. If you want the communication tips that I'm going to be teaching you in this video, comment the word skill below and I'll send you the link to download it immediately. It's completely free. But before we get into this, I want to introduce myself. My name is Jessica Chen, and I'm really glad you're here. I teach communications and leadership skills to smart engineers at Columbia University. I'm also a best-selling author of the book Smart, Not Loud: How to Get Noticed at Work for All the Right Reasons, and a former Emmy Award-winning TV journalist. After teaching over 2 million people how to speak with confidence and authority, I think I know a lot about why certain people get ahead, and I want to teach you exactly what to do. It's no fluff, just tactical, real tips here. Okay, I want you to think back to a moment where maybe your boss asked you a tough question, or maybe it was a client that was pushing back on you, or maybe it was an interview where someone went somewhere and you totally were not expecting that question. You know that feeling. Your heart starts pumping. You open your mouth, and the only thing that wants to come out are the ums and the uhs. I'll tell you right now that this isn't a confidence problem. This is a strategy problem because, to be honest, we were never taught how to react in tough situations. But I have good news for you because strategy is actually something you can learn. I think about someone that I've worked with once, and this person was a public official who needed media interview training because this person was going to be asked some very tough questions about accountability. Now, this person was sharp and genuinely one of the most knowledgeable persons that I've ever worked with. However, a few months ago, someone in the public asked her this question. Can you explain why your last proposal failed? Just like that, right in front of everyone, in front of the cameras. And my client, she froze, not because she didn't have the answer, but because no one had ever taught her what to do in that moment, where how she carried herself would really determine her credibility and self-confidence. So what did she do before our training? Well, before we worked together, she would just over-explain. She would apologize. She would start filling those silence with more words, more justification. And honestly, the more that she talked, the smaller she seemed. So she told me after we started working together, she said, Jessica, I knew the answer. I just didn't know what to do with my body or where to start. Her story stayed with me because what I taught her next is what I'm going to be teaching you today, because it wasn't a confidence thing. It was, how do you handle yourself in a tough situation? So the first thing I want you to do in a moment like this is I want you to always pause and notice the tough question. Don't react. Don't rush to fill the silence. Just notice what's happening. Then deploy what I call the down-up point movement. It's what every executive, every public figure, that's what they do. And now you can handle yourself with that same composure when faced with a tricky question. This is what it looks like. Drop your head down and point your eyes downwards. Nod your head because it signals you heard. Then you bring your eyes up to the person, and then you give your pointed response. This is all just 2 to 3 seconds. But here's why it's so powerful. For you, it stops you from speaking like you're reacting. It gives your brain just enough time and space to catch up, and the other person They read this as composure, not someone who's rattled, even though you might be feeling a little bit of that inside. This pause doesn't just help you think clearly, it protects your image in the room. Next, you've paused when someone asked you that tough question, and you use the down-up point movement you just learned here. Now, here's a part that actually changes the outcome of the conversation. When a question is pointing at a weakness, you have to acknowledge, bridge, and pivot, which goes into the second tip. This is where you acknowledge by answering yes or no. It's not dodging it. But then you use a bridge phrase to bridge to something constructive you can actually say. So here are some bridge phrases you can use. What I can say is, as a matter of fact, in fact, what's important here is this. These aren't filler words. They're signals to yourself and to the other person that you are trying to steer the conversation forward to what you can talk about. Now, let me show you what this actually sounds like. So let's say somebody asks you a question like, gosh, your company had a really tough quarter financially. What happened? Instead of unraveling, you can say, yes, it was a difficult quarter, but what I can say is we have a lot of things in place that's better positioning us for next quarter, and we're genuinely very confident about where we're headed next. For example, here are the 3 things we're working on. That's powerful. You acknowledged, you didn't hide, but you ended it with a pivot. A pivot is something you can say. So while the question might have been about the low point, your answer doesn't have to dwell in that low point. Your last words, your pivot, is what people are actually going to remember. I want to tell you a story about how someone did this beautifully. So there was a guy named Ben, and he was being interviewed for a promotion he was gunning for. It was an internal position. So the people interviewing him were people he already knew. So they asked him a question he had an idea was coming, and it was this. Ben, there was a campaign that you led about 2 years ago that significantly underperformed. Can you walk us through what happened? The old version of him, the version from a few years ago, would have totally unraveled. He would have over-apologized, over-explained, and he would have handed them every reason why they shouldn't give him that new promotion. But instead, he paused, eyes down for a moment, nodding his head, taking a breath, and looking back up. And then he said, "You're right. That campaign didn't necessarily hit what we were hoping for, but honestly, that taught me more than I think any success I've had here, because what I can tell you is that everything that I built afterwards was built on what I learned. And the 2 campaigns that followed were really our most successful yet. And I can walk you through exactly what changed if that would be useful to you." Wow. Powerful shift. You could feel that, right? Because in that moment, the interviewers, they weren't actually judging his competency, because he, of course, had many more wins after that one fail. But they wanted to see how he could handle himself in a tough situation. So for you, you might have gone to the 2nd or 3rd round of interview. That means there's already a huge interest in you in that new role. And in a stage like that, it's really using your ability to perform under pressure and showcasing it. And for Ben, he did that and he got that job. That's what this technique I'm teaching you does. It doesn't erase the moments. It makes sure that these tough situations don't determine how you're perceived. Now, here's something I want you to be ready for, because this is going to happen as well. Sometimes the person you're talking to, they're not going to be satisfied with your answer. They're going to come back around and they're going to keep pushing you. They're going to keep pushing you on the same point again and again, and they might ask it from a different angle. That is also a tough situation. And this is where I want you use this 3rd tip of handling pushback gracefully. And this is what I want you to do. Don't change your answer. Just restate it and stand your ground. calmly with the same energy you had the first time. When you say the same thing twice, steadily, without flinching, it sends a very clear signal to the other person that that's all you have to say. There's no more that you can dig for here. Stick to your message, keep it short. Now, a lot of times people then go, but Jessica, what if I just really don't have the answer to their question? I don't want to look dumb or unprepared. What do I actually say in a situation like that? It's a tough situation. Well, this is what you can say. You can say, the situation is still unfolding and it's actively being looked into. That's it. Make sure you also say this with a downward pitch at the end, not rising and raising your voice because that can signal that you're unsure. Flat, calm, and grounded. That tone tells the other person that this is genuinely all you can say right now. Here's what I really want you to take away from this video. Difficult moments, tough conversations. These are not signs that you did something wrong. They're just part of learning how to communicate, especially when stakes feel very high. And I'll tell you, the people who can navigate these tough situations aren't necessarily the most naturally confident people, but they are the people who learned the strategy and have a clear roadmap of what to do when they find themselves in a tricky situation. Because it's not about if this is going to happen, it's about when this is going to happen. And this is what this video is all about. So, first, pause, use a down, up, point movement. Give yourself a few seconds before you speak. Second, acknowledge, bridge, and pivot. Use transition phrases so you can talk about what you can say. The third, if people push, stay consistent. And the fourth tip really is, if you don't know what to say, just be mindful of your tone and stay grounded. Nobody in these conversations is really trying to tear you down. A lot of the times people are asking you these tough questions because they're just trying to understand what happened. So take the pressure off yourself. Trust your strategy. And remember that composure isn't something that people are necessarily born with. It's something that you practice. And that is what this video teaches you. And I hope you enjoyed this and walked away with some amazing golden nuggets. And don't forget, if you want the communication tips from this video, comment the word skill below and I'll send you the download link right away. Now, I'd love to know how this video landed for you. Have you ever been in a moment where the situation felt very tricky? What did the person ask you? Put your comments and your questions below. I genuinely read all of them. And if this helps you, share this video with someone who you feel might be walking into a tough conversation, or send it somewhere to somebody who you feel would genuinely appreciate the tips here. And of course, if you liked it, please like the video, please subscribe as I continue to share what other communication tips you need to know so you can stay grounded at work. Until then, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in our next video.